Hello and welcome back to another video. As promised, I don't usually do videos with how to use swords because I'm really not an expert at that. I trained a little bit, but just a very little bit. But I can tell you from what I do know, it's not like the movies. I think the closest thing you're going to get, like I said, is a Kurosawa movie. Definitely not like other movies. Because this is a reproduction of, obviously, and a rather gaudy one at that, because I don't want to do this with actual antique swords. But it's not sword fighting. It never was, especially when the sword you would have years ago represented an investment. It would be like buying a new expensive car. You don't want to engage in too much outright cling clang battle with your sword, just like you wouldn't want to just ram into garbage pails with your new car. So you would want to use it to the greatest extent that you absolutely only had to, and intelligently. The idea was always keep it close. You don't want to like hanging out here. You don't want to be distracted like what? Then somebody else could get it. Keep it close and don't give up the game too fast. A lot of the times, just like with a knife, your weapon was meant to be felt, not necessarily seen. Although it's hard to miss a big sword like sticking out of a belt like this, and there's no way you're not going to see this. So anyway, the idea was, if you had to draw it, you don't do this. Take your time and then be like, oh yeah? No. Because then the next guy's going to get the jump on you and kill you before you could even say, oh yeah. So, the idea is, and this sword's a little long for me, as you can tell. The idea is, well, have a sword that's suitable to your stature, which is why a lot of swords are shortened anyway. And take advantage of your body and the positioning. The idea was, if you had to, somebody's like coming in with an overhand swing, you just slice them through, and then maybe decapitate them or slice them in the back, and that was it. Game over. Blood off, draw it back through here, guide it back in, and that's it. And then you go about your way. Ideally, if the person is coming over with their sword, you don't want to ever clang, ching ching. Ideally, the idea is to make no contact at all. Let the person come in, hit them, and only their flesh, ideally. These were meant for one main purpose: opening up live human flesh. That's what they're really good at. They're not really good at doing a lot of other things. It's live human flesh. Anytime you smash it against anything else, there's a risk of chipping, breakage, bending, and if you look up the competitions online that they have in Japan, even there's a lot of blades that get bent in the cutting competitions, even if they're just cutting bamboo or tatami mats, because they can bend. That's why the idea is one quick kill, and that's it. That being said, this is not always the best idea. It's a little big, and they wouldn't traditionally be worn inside anyway. So it's a little big, it's a little involved. And from a lot of the stories that I've read too, the longer sword is really not ideal for even taking heads in the field. Something like this is wakizashi, or maybe a slightly shorter katana. Would still be worn, tucked into the belt, in this case the leather belt, or whatever, right? Do something more traditional another time. But this is a lot easier to get out. It's quicker, it's a quicker draw, and it's just as deadly, especially if you get smashed with it and on a limb. You still cut a hand off, a leg, you still puncture it through somebody. And it's a lot easier to manage and put away and draw. It's almost the equivalent of like a pistol or a shotgun. You wouldn't need a humongous shotgun to harm somebody, when a pistol is much smaller and more concealable. They'll both do pretty much the same thing. stench. And if you're using a blade, not now, I mean like hundreds of years ago, then that's what it was for. It's a lot of like what they teach special forces with knives. There's no instruction that says, okay, well, get out your knife and intimidate the enemy and maybe he'll surrender. No, if you gotta use a weapon, they feel it and may never even see it. The same thing was true with samurai years ago. Like, if there would be a fight, you wouldn't, unless it was a duel or something set up, you wouldn't necessarily announce this and be like, hey, I'm going to come over there and stab or slash at you. You'd be just like, no, you mean harm somebody. Bam. That's it. Stabbed, maybe slash, you know. Probably not doing a lot of this right, but it goes away. That's it. So I don't really have too much to say about, too much more to say, I mean, about this subject, but I think it should just be borne in mind that that's why they are the way they are, and why you might also see, like I said in previous videos too, a lot of shortened blades. A lot of Japanese were my size. They're not really big people. So the blades were, it's not like what you'd see in European like battle scenes or movies or whatever, where they've had the sword out first and like, ah! And the sword was really, and I've said this in a previous video, not the main weapon. The main weapon was a bow and arrow or a spear, something where you can kill at a distance. I said this before in a previous video, they were very brave warriors, but they're not outright suicidal. If you want to get close enough to use something like this, or a knife, tanto, you've got to get pretty close, which probably means your primary weapons have either been used up or failed already. Unless it was Edo period, which is a very peaceful time anyway, and you happen to get into like a scuffle or a match with somebody else with a blade, which would probably be another samurai, because samurai did have the right to cut down any commoner who wasn't a samurai for any slight, real or imagined. And the commoners knew this, so they wouldn't push the samurai too much. They might push each other, but even then they were on a pretty level playing field as far as the blades and the teaching goes. So hope that was at least a little bit informative. I know I made errors with the drawing, which is, you know, the Iaido part, but I think the overall theme and idea, I hope, gets across. All right. Thank you. See you next video.